It's the Growler with PD&Jay, here to analyze for you today. From Growler Bet to Jay's got stats. We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Growler Podcast.
All right. Welcome into the latest edition of PD&Jay. Paul Dehner Jr., Jay Morrison, excited to be with you here on a Wednesday short week. Tomorrow there's a game, Jay. Dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
It does seem like it got here in a hurry, but that's the way it's supposed to work on a Thursday game. I've been in this mode all week where I cannot, we don't normally record on Wednesday. This is just yet another thing where I do not know what day of the week it is at any given moment.
No, but I do know that we have the weekend free, and that is very exciting for me. We have a great show for you today. Teased this yesterday. Super excited to bring this to you. Andrew Whitworth is our guest on today's podcast. He is awesome. I am super excited for you guys to hear this conversation. We talked about a lot of stuff, including what role contract issues can have on eroding the culture of a locker room. There is no person better positioned on earth to answer that question about the Cincinnati Bengals than Andrew Whitworth, and boy does he answer it, plus talks about a ton of other great stuff. He's got all kinds of things going on. He will be, of course, part of the Amazon Prime broadcast on Thursday night for Bengals and Ravens. Awesome stuff. Great to catch up with Whit. That will be coming your way here momentarily, so stick around for that. We're going to talk about some news, the trade deadline. We're going to have a game outlook after we talk to Whit, breaking down everything for the Ravens. We'll have our predictions and Growler bets and all of that stuff all coming your way. Reminder, then, we will have a live show. Our next live show is going to be on Monday at 7 o'clock at BetMGM Nation Kitchen and Bar down at the Banks. We are doing a mid-season media madness show. We're going to be breaking out all of the same way we do our preseason show that we did on the Thursday opener. We're going to do it here on Monday Night Football. We're going to be talking about the state of the Bengals as they come off this Thursday game. James Rapien from Locked On and SI is going to be our guest. Jay will be there. I'll be there. Many more will be down there. So make sure you come on down and join us, where we're going to be giving away a Joe Burrow jersey, full-sized Bengals helmet. We'll have graders hookups, $3 Cincy lights, all of the things that we do at these shows, we're going to have going on down there. So come on down. We hope you will come join us. It's going to be a great time. Giveaways galore, as we like to do. So come on down to that. Jay, let's talk a little bit about some of the news, and then we'll get to Whit. News from yesterday starts off. We talked about the Khalil Herbert trade yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, the word from Zach Taylor and kind of from, you heard it even from Joe Burrow yesterday, was he could play Thursday. Yeah. There's a possibility that he could at least have a small role. Burrow saying, look, he's standing right next to me. I can just tell him what to do. And so if that's what they need, that's what they need. It, you know, for a guy that just showed up, there's a chance that, there could be, if needed, he could be in there. I don't think he's going to be picking up exotic Ravens sim pressures on third down, but I think you could put him in there on first down and say, hey, run the ball.
Absolutely. And first or second down, if they're running, and you do wonder, because as most road stadiums are, it's pretty loud. So even talking in the huddle can be difficult. Talking on the field, even though the guy's standing right next to you, there could be some issues there. But I would expect to see him in there at least. The reason he's here is to take a load off of Chase Brown, and I don't know that they would feel comfortable easing that load with Travion Williams, Kendall Milton getting snaps tomorrow night. So I do think that you'll see him get in there and maybe have a handful of touches.
Yeah. The rest of the trade deadline played out yesterday and went kind of like, we told you it was going to go. I said, I'll quote my hero, Andre 3000. I hate to be the bearer of bad news. Don't want to be it, but it's needed. So what have you? I didn't want to be this. I didn't want to be the guy to throw water on everybody's parade and say, look, I'm not hearing that this is coming. Yes, conversations happened. They continued. There wasn't quite as much defensive action at the deadline as people wanted there to be. A lot of names that people were throwing out there were not traded. Azeez Ojulari, Arden Key, Chase Young's name was thrown out. You see all these names throw out there. A lot of teams claim that they wanted to trade guys and really didn't, or prices didn't match. And when that happens, you don't get as much action. There were certainly some. I mean, you see a team like Pittsburgh does the double ads. We know what the Chiefs have done. Yeah, exactly. You see the Ravens added Tre'Davious White at corner for whatever that does for you for a 7th round pick. The teams that they're going to be playing down the stretch added. The Bengals did not, and it kind of went the way I think that we thought it was going to go.
Yeah, I think Herbert coming down in the morning, people got excited and think, oh, they're going to be players this year. And I think the Herbert trade actually lowered the chances of them making another trade, because we know how much they hate parting with draft picks. So you've already parted with one. The odds that they were going to part with another, a 6th, a 5th, whatever it would have been to get a defensive guy, it never made sense. And I think the Herbert deal really kind of sealed that they were not going to give away multiple picks.
Yeah, Marshawn Lattimore was a big name that you could have seen. Really, the only name, for the most part, that was realistic that got moved yesterday that you could have seen coming in and having really an instant impact on the Bengals, as far as anybody that actually got moved. And that was a 3rd and a 4th round pick given up by the Commanders in that deal. That's a hefty number, especially when you're a Bengals team that's living the highly paid quarterback and receiver life as they are going to be. That's a big part of what happened. The defensive tackle market was never really much of anything worthwhile, which is where they continue this elusive journey to ever find a defensive tackle with any skins on the wall. They have not been able to do it, and we didn't really see hardly any movement there yesterday. So their team is on the floor, and this defense didn't get the help. It's a loss in the margins for the Bengals, who could have used just some kind of a piece. But this season, this is not a maker. To me, it wasn't a make or break loss. No one was walking through that door that was really going to change anything realistically. This was always going to be about what it's going to continue to be about, and what will be on display and on notice again tomorrow. That is, this young defensive core has to grow up. This young defensive group of Miles Murphy, DJ Turner, Cam Taylor-Britt, Joseph Osai, all of these players, Jordan Battle.
Throw him in there for sure.
Chris Jenkins, McKinley Jackson, all of these guys, that is what this is about. Those guys that they have placed chips on have to progress, have to get better. That's how things change, not by one random trade coming in and supplementing a pass rusher or another corner. And it's not exciting. That's not fun or splashy to talk about, but I think that's just the reality of where they're at. And it's hard to feel great about that with what you've seen, but that, again, the lack of a move is just another chip betting on those guys, and we'll see if that bet craps out or not.
Yeah. And I mean, if they gave up 38 in regulation in the first game and still had a chance to win. So if this defense is a little healthier now and they can take a little bit step forward, the one you mentioned of all those young guys, Battle, I think is the really interesting one, because we've seen him kind of gradually take some snaps away from Von Bell. Last week it was 50-50. And if you remember, everybody talks about this game last year, Thursday night in Baltimore, the Burrow injury. And this is also the 1-year anniversary of Jordan Battle taking over that starting role. And Vaughn is covered. He struggled in coverage. If he gets lit up by Mark Andrews on a couple of plays, I could see them maybe turn into the younger, faster Jordan Battle, and we see kind of the same momentum that he gained at the end of last year starting in Baltimore.
Yep. All right. As far as injuries go, we have, Jay, we kind of heard a little bit. Jamar maybe let slip that it sounds like T. Higgins is not going to maybe be able to go. He kind of said T's going to be down or a game time decision or whatever happened to that. And it was, so that might have given that away. Trending up, though, on Orlando Brown, who did see his level advance. Again, as you're listening to this, there may be more information out on that. What did you make of the BJ Hill comments from Lou Anarumo yesterday, Jay?
I thought it sounded encouraging.
Yeah.
And Zach as well, what saying it was better than expected. And it was he came out to practice late. He didn't practice, but he did come out late. He didn't do any side work. It feels short week. He knows the defense. Obviously, he knows the opponent. It's a division opponent. He's a guy that this is a week where you can get by with not practicing and get out there and play. And maybe it's not a full load, but you need. Yes, Chris Jenkins is playing better. McKinley Jackson's playing better, but Lamar Jackson's a totally different animal. And they need, if BJ Hill can go, they need to have him in there.
Yep. So we'll keep an eye out. You're following us on X or wherever. You can keep an eye on the injury report as that comes out. A bunch of guys will be tracking right up until game time on Thursday night. That will be the same time where they will be live on Amazon Prime. And that means Andrew Whitworth will be out there talking about the Bengals. As he has done such an awesome job along with that whole crew. I love it. I'm not a studio show guy, Jay. Like I can't really handle much of those. They're just kind of the same and tired and boring, except for one. I watch the opens. I watch afterward because it is as real as it gets. They tell it like it is. They don't sound like a team that is worried about what the league is going to say, or what a team is going to say. And so it's he's done an awesome job. He's got a new podcast out with Ryan Fitzpatrick, old Bengals stories show up there, and he was kind enough to join me to talk a little bit about all things Bengals, past, present, and future. And boy, is it a great conversation, as it always is with Andrew Whitworth. We'll be back talking more about the game on the other side of this. But here's about a half hour with Whit. All right. Hello, YouTubers. Always great to say hello to you. This is posted separately. It's so good. We wanted to kind of live in its own space as we usually do with some of these. So you can go watch that on our YouTube channel. Thanks for subscribing here on YouTube. I hope you are. And hit the bell and do the ratings and all that stuff. We really appreciate that. Helps get us out to more people, more Bengals fans, and even the Bengals haters who are plenty out there. And I see in the comments now. There you are. There you are. Good. That's good. So anyway, thanks to everybody for following us on YouTube, and hope you go over and enjoy the Whit interview now if you have not already done so. But otherwise, back to our regularly scheduled program. Thanks again for Whit, who kind of defines Gradersworthy, in my opinion, Jay. I mean, like a dude that has just crushed Graders, lived here, loved Graders. I've seen the man eat plenty of ice cream in my presence, even just in the open locker room, and then gives an interview like that, takes time out of a very busy schedule to do so. The epitome of Gradersworthy, the six-pack shipper on dry ice, going to show up at his doorstep in LA, and I hope him and his family enjoy it.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't just say thank you. Graders got their money was worth just out of what Whit had to say about getting Graders. And so, it was a great conversation, and really, really appreciative of him willing to jump on.
Did you have a takeaway from things that he said at all?
I had a couple. One is, where do him and Melissa work out? Because if they don't have their own private gym, there's probably a lot of people out there that think Andrew Whitworth is a real dick. I mean, you know how popular he is. People have to be coming up and saying, "Hey, how you doing?" in between bench reps or whatever. And he's laser focused. And so that was one. The other one I thought was really interesting was what he said about you trade a guy and the locker room's going to be pissed. The shelf life of that is about a week. And then he said after a week, it's business as usual. Everyone moves on. That really kind of surprised me. I've always felt like that would be something that could kind of linger. And so it was interesting to hear him say that NFL players move on from that stuff pretty quickly. Yeah.
I thought really that whole piece about the erosion of a locker room that happens when, and specifically knowing how that wears on people from the Bengals side of things, was really telling. And I think it's something they're battling right now. I think when you look at the first half of this season and the state of this team and what's happened with its stars in the off seasons, and I think it's just wearing on them. And I think that's like when you hear things that happen, and we've certainly taken our fair shots and jokes at the Trey Wingo, the vibes are off, right? Just hearing the vibes are off is kind of the theme leading into this of the pessimism surrounding the Bengals. And that, I think that's it. I mean, that's what it is. It's just eventually you get there, but it wears on people. And I think it erodes at your culture And then you're missing guys to straighten it out, like the DJ Readers and the Tyler Boyds and whoever of the world that you want to say that have just been core, foundational pieces. And bit by bit, it stops kind of being the same thing that you want it to be. So anyway, great conversation with Whit. Appreciate him for sharing his immense football knowledge and talking ball. So I told him this, and I say it again. I just want to talk to him about football culture every time I see him because he's so good on it. He has such an elite understanding of what makes teams tick, what makes them win, what causes them to lose. And so it was great to hear his perspective on some really important Bengals topics there, and get more of that on his podcast with Fitzy and on Amazon and all that stuff. So make sure you're following Whit. All right. Let's talk Bengals-Ravens. It's on us very quickly here. Let's just run through a quick game outlook, Jay.
Okay.
Ravens are 6-3. They are undefeated when scoring 28 plus, and 0-3 when they don't. The first game against the Bengals was a 41-38 Baltimore victory. Despite we had the fumble and the dropped hold and the missed kick from the Bengals that we mentioned this the other day. If that gets executed, the Bengals are ahead of the Ravens currently in the standings.
Yeah.
It's just wild to think about. It didn't. They lost 41-38. They are hanging on for dear life, and the Ravens are one of everybody's favorite, and obviously for good reason, favorites to make it to the Super Bowl. Lamar Jackson is on an MVP pace. Their offense is elite beyond elite. They're currently second in points per drive. They're 22nd in points per drive on defense. Their defense has been maligned. If this sounds familiar, it's because it is. They have struggled, and I think a lot of games have looked like the first Bengals game did for them, and they just feel like their defense has been a liability, but settled down last week in a big win, a blowout, massive blowout over Denver. They're middle of the pack, 11th in turnover margin. The BetMGM line on this one has the Ravens as 6.5 point favorites currently as we speak, over under at 53. Bengals on the money line at plus 220. This is a battle of two of my favorite stats. One I mentioned yesterday, Jay.
Yeah.
And the other one that I have pulled out often, which is Joe Burrow as an underdog. And you don't see it all that often anymore, but it certainly happens. Some of his best moments, some of his best games have come out when he has been an underdog. Most of them have been on the road, just as this one is. 6.5 is the line right now in Pro Football Reference. When you go back through games when the Bengals were underdogs with Burrow of at least 4, going back to 2021, they've covered every single one. Covered them all. 6-2 straight up. The last one came in week 2 against the Chiefs. They lose that game. That counts as one of the losses.
Yeah.
The game that the 4th and 16 Dejon Anthony takes the win away from them. That would have been the only loss to the Chiefs. But hey, every Chiefs game this year goes like that, where they find a way to pull it out. So you didn't win. But you've seen this over time. Let's go back to now. Last year, he doesn't finish the game in Baltimore, so you throw that one out. That one doesn't count. They had the lead when he last threw a pass. You had in San Francisco last year, maybe his best game, one of his best games ever. 31-17 win. They were 4.5 point dogs in that one. At Buffalo in the playoffs, they were 5.5 point dogs. Maybe one of his best games ever. The Super Bowl, you remember that one? AFC Championship game, they were 7-point dogs. The week before that, they were 4-point dogs against Tennessee. Against Kansas City at home that year, they were 4-point underdogs. They won 34-31. And then in Baltimore in 2021, they were 6.5 point dogs and won 41-17. We've just seen this over the course of his career in these moments. And then you take how dialed in he clearly is right now. And trying to get everybody else with him. I would be stunned if we saw anything but a great performance out of Joe Burrow on Thursday. That doesn't mean they're going to win. This is going to come down to that defense. But that to me just stands out. And you could even I did 4 because the line's all the way up at 6.5. You throw in 3, it's more of the same, more covers, including the 1917 loss in Baltimore in week 5 in 2022, that they just narrowly lost that game and had a stopped at the goal line, and the Stanley Morgan shovel pass and all that stuff is all a part of that history too. Covers and great games from Joe Burrow has been almost 100% across the board in these situations.
Yeah, Sunday night, I'm always interested when the opening lines come out. I try to think along with them, and you're usually pretty close. I was stunned to see it open at 6.5. His history, just where this team is right now offensively, anytime you see a line where it's 6.5 and you got that little hook on there, because if it goes overtime, you're going to win. It's very hard. I don't know if you can even lose a game in overtime by more than 6. So I would never wager on a game I was covering, but I love this line. I really, and for all the reasons in the moment, but then that history that you just mentioned too. This is a Joe Burrow kind of game, and I'd be really, really surprised. Right there with you, I'd be stunned if this isn't one of his better games and a tight game to the end.
Yeah, I mean, in like any game that the Bengals play against a good team this year, particularly a good offense this year, this is going to be a game that's about can they get a turnover? Like, they're going to give up points. That's who they are. I don't see them suddenly being good on defense, but can Lamar fumble and they scoop? Can they get a ball tipped in the air and pull down an interception? I mean, that's so much what you have to do against the Ravens specifically, and this defense generally, because of just the fact that they're just not going to be able to compete pound for pound with the Ravens on that side of the ball. They need to be aggressive on offense. They need to be going for it on 4th downs. They need to be playing for touchdowns and not field goals. And I think, and that's kind of part of what you saw last week early against the Raiders, and some of you've seen from them this year, is I think an understanding of the type of game that they have to play. Pretend you're playing Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs every week. Go get points, go score, don't be conservative, and don't throw behind the sticks.
One of the things that really I find interesting about this game, because it seems like this when you play a team for a second time in a season, however that first game went, win, lose, big blowout, close, whatever, coaches always have this tendency to feel like we have to switch it up. We can't do what we did in the last game. We have to do something different. And Lou did something different in that first game. He blitzed the Ravens 44% of the time. It was a go for broke kind of defensive approach. And I wonder if they do that again for the reasons you were saying. They just need to get a turnover to be great, but just get a stop that way, maybe a short field for the offense. Does he sell out? Does he say, we're going to give up the points anyhow? We might as well come after Lamar and see if we can get a turnover, get a strip sack, whatever it might be. He's normally in the 22-23% blitz range. I mean, that was double how much he normally likes to blitz. And a lot of that was kind of run blitzing too, to stop Derrick Henry. But that's the one thing I'm really not looking forward to. I'm interested to see, let's say it that way, for Thursday night. And you've got the defensive line back, so maybe he doesn't blitz as much. Maybe he's more comfortable with all these guys that they've got. They can rotate on the defensive line, but it's always a chess match. Lou always pulls out something different against Baltimore, and if whatever he pulls out Thursday, if they can get a turnover or two, they are going to have a real chance to win this game.
Yeah, it's similar when we talk about Lou's battles with Patrick Mahomes. I mean, where it's such a chess match where he will do a lot of the opposite of what he did in the previous match, knowing what you're expecting and trying to just keep you off balance. So do we start seeing, passing downs with more drop 8? I mean, Bengals fans are like, no, for the love of Christ, seen enough of that. But I mean, do you see that? Do you see more blitzes in unorthodox situations? And I think that was part of what he did in the first game against the Ravens, was these blitzes that are designed to just get bodies in the backfield to try to slow Derrick Henry. It's easy to say a similar game plan because you don't want to be predictable, but I think a similar game plan is in order for the most part, outside of maybe a few different calls. It sounds weird to say it was working, but they did slow Derrick Henry. They did get force Lamar to beat him, and you hope that you will be able to get a pick. And it's just you're picking your poison when you're outmanned against an elite offense. Like, they just have to hope that they can get a couple of turnovers, and forcing Lamar to throw it and beat him that way, as Lamar has beaten so many people this year, is a little something you can live with a little bit more than Derrick Henry just shoving, right? I mean, that's that's a little bit, it's more demoralizing. It's just harder to handle. I think that that's kind of the reality, and why Lamar is just roasting the world in the MVP favorite by a mile right now.
And that's, I mean, Derrick Henry's one of those guys. It sounds weird to say, but he's one of those backs where missed tackles are okay, not beyond the line of scrimmage. But like you said, if you can flood the backfield, make him cut before he gets to the line, even have him truck a guy, as long as you just can't let him build that momentum. He's so big and powerful and so fast. And if he hits the hole, that's when he takes off. But if you can affect him in the backfield, even if it's a missed tackle that slows down that progress, and have other guys rally to him, that's the way to handle him. And he had 41 yards through regulation, and then he breaks the 51-yarder in overtime, and that was all she wrote.
All right. Jay, do you have a referee? What's our referee situation here?
Yeah, it's Clete Blakeman. He is the NFL leader in penalties per game, or him and his crew. 16.3 per game. They also these are not false starts, delay of games. These are big boys. They lead the NFL in penalty yards per game at 142.5. So it could be a choppy game. He's been around for a long time. The very first game he worked as a head referee was the playoff game against the Texans, the wild card game, the J.J. Watt interception game against Andy Dalton in the rookie year, way back in 2011. This is the 16th time he's done a Bengals game. The Bengals are 8-7 with him. This is the 4th Bengals-Ravens game he has worked, and the Bengals are 2-1 against the Ravens when he's the ref. The last time that he worked a Bengals game, the 2023 season opener in Cleveland, he did not create the rain, so you can't blame that one on him.
That's great. Really looking forward to that. That's what you want.
Lots of flags.
Great matchup, 2 elite quarterbacks, and we're going to end up in the post game talking about calls and pool reports.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. RPB. We got an RPB for this week. What are you thinking?
Yeah. So I've got one for each team.
All right.
Who you want to start with?
Let's start with the Ravens.
All right, we'll start with the Ravens. So what will be greater? Lamar's passer rating. He's coming off a perfect 158.3. I don't know if he's going to do that again, but it's always possible against this defense. Derrick Henry rushing yards or non-Zay Flowers receiving yards. So all Patrick Ricard, Mark Andrews, all the other players, take Zay Flowers out, all the other receiving yards.
Okay. I will boot Derrick Henry rushing yards. I feel like they're going to be dedicated to stopping him, and I know that he got out of the long one at the end of the last game, but I really, from a percentage standpoint, the vast majority of his runs, they did a good job on them. I feel like they're in a better place even today than they were there in terms of being able to do that personnel-wise, so I'll boot that one. I'll run with non-Zay Flowers receiving yards. I think they've got plenty of weapons that can, and he's going to throw for a ton of yards. Even a perfect passer rating might not be enough there. So I will run with non-Zay Flowers, and I'll keep Lamar right in the middle with that passer rating.
Yeah, I had the exact same as you. The only thing I was thinking is I think the passer rating would be good. I do think the Bengals get an interception in this game, maybe 2, but that's enough to kind of knock it down. And you're right, they have so many other weapons that they can go to, and just the tight end room. But then you've got the running backs and the other receivers. And so I'm right with you on that one. The Bengals run passer boot. Joe Burrow yards per attempt. Evan McPherson points scored. He kicks 3 field goals. That's going to be hard for Burrow to top. Bengals first quarter points. And the reason I put this one on there, they've scored it. It's kind of an under discussed storyline. We've talked so much about their slow starts. They've actually scored a first quarter touchdown in 4 games in a row in 6 of their last 7. So they are getting the offense moving a lot quicker. So that is the third prong of this. Burrow yards per attempt, McPherson points scored, or Bengals first quarter points.
Okay. I'm going to say McPherson points scored. I think there'll be field goals, and even if there's a bunch of touchdowns, he's going to get his numbers up there.
Yep.
I will say, I'll say Burrow yards per attempt. I mean, there's a chance Baltimore gets the ball first and has like a 15-play, 80-yard drive, and it's only one possession anyway. So the fact that that's a possibility will take me away from the Bengals' first quarter points reaching double digits, which is, I think they need to get to 10. I think his yards per attempt will be probably above 7. Just predicting a shootout in this game. So that's where I'll go with it. I think McPherson leads the way, and I'll boot Bengals first quarter points.
I'm actually going to run with first quarter points. They've been good on these opening drives. If they get a Lamar turnover, maybe it happens early, and you get a quick 2-score lead. That is
when have they gotten a 2-score lead, Jay?
Arizona last year was the last.
You're over here like, look, Lamar's going to throw a pick, maybe 2. He's got 2 interceptions on this season. You're like, oh, they're definitely going to get one of those 2-score leads that they never get. I think fans are probably appreciating your optimism right now.
Well, I mean, even if they just get one touch, even if they get 7 points and they keep this streak going, I think that can be enough to win this run, pass, or boot. As you said, if it's all touchdowns, McPherson, you get 35. That's 5 points for McPherson. And I don't know that the yards per attempt are going to be that high. I do think they're going to throw it a lot to try to keep some wear and tear off of Chase Brown. And if there's no T, I think they're going to have a hard time being explosive. So I think those other numbers are going to be more manageable, and I'm rolling the dice a little bit, but I'm going to run with first quarter points, pass on McPherson points, and boot yards per attempt.
Okay. All right, Growler Bet. We are going to hopefully have one that actually happens this time, unlike last week, even though we did give out a winner.
Something will have gone seriously wrong if this does not. If we don't have an answer on this one.
And I'm not sure that we are alive to do the walkout if this does not have an answer. And that is Ravens point total. Okay. What is your level of belief in this Cincinnati Bengals defense against Lamar Jackson and an elite offense where they have just been unfathomably poor this year? What is your level of belief? Can they even hold them a little bit? So send us to the Growler Podcast at gmail.com or on Twitter, #Bengals Growler Bet, your prediction for the Ravens point total in this game. Just know there's a possibility that a lot of you might have the same numbers. Some of the same numbers tend to show up. If that ends up being the case, I'm just gonna pick my favorite subject header out of those, just like I did last week. So know that you better bring a good one because it could decide whether you win the bar bill down at Nation or not. So keep that in mind. But go ahead and send that in. We don't have to give our answers right now, Jay, because we're about to do predictions.
Yeah,
so people will find out our answers here soon enough. That said, what is your prediction for Thursday Night Football?
So a very similar game to week 5. I think there's going to be a lot of points. I think there's going to be a lot of lead changes. And because of the stat you'd had yesterday, because of just what it is, I have a hard time picking the Bengals to win this game. I still think they have a really good chance to win it. I think they're an easy cover. I think they're going to the playoffs if they do win. I can't pick them to win. I'm going to have them losing by the narrowest of margins. No T is going to be a difference maker if that is the case, as Jamar alluded to. I've got Baltimore 35, Cincinnati 34.
Okay. I'm in the same vein as you there. I think that this will be high scoring, close, and the type of game that you expect the Bengals and Ravens to play, the type of game they just played a few weeks ago. I'm with you on the T. Higgins factor. I mean, you're all over that. It feels that way. It just feels like this is one of those where a play here or a play there is not going to go their way, or the defense just won't be able to make the one stop you needed or force the one field goal they needed to force. The Ravens are just diabolical in the red zone with Henry and Lamar. It's so tough down there, and it just doesn't feel like they're going to force enough of those stops or field goals. And you love the way Burrow's playing, and I feel like he can absolutely tear him up, but without T, it does change things. No Eric All, they're adjusting to, no Zach Moss and pass protection on third downs. Like, some of that stuff can chip away just enough. You can just only ask so much of Burrow to be a hero, and it feels like there's a lot on his plate. That said, I think he gives it everything he's got and keeps it close. But I have Ravens 34, Bengals 31. But you're right. I think at the end of the day, this is one, if they find a way, considering all the stuff that we just talked about and how hard this situation is to win this game, it's on.
Yeah.
The whole picture's back on. They can beat the best in this league in maybe one of the toughest spots. Then why can't they be the team that makes the run? They're right back at 500. They're right kind of the same team that they'd been in previous years. Maybe the defense shows enough to make you believe in progress there. You can see that. There's just, and Whit talked about it too. It just feels like there's so much at play for what they can prove themselves to be on Thursday night. And if they lose, I mean, you only got one, maybe two of those left to spill before it's over. And so the margin for error would only get thinner. Massive game Thursday night in Baltimore, just like they always seem to be. And just like we probably thought it was going to be when the schedule first came out and they put Joe Burrow back in the same exact spot on the same exact night, almost exactly a year later as the night that his wrist got hurt. As he pointed out yesterday, the same thing they did to Aaron Rodgers in the opener. The NFL, they enjoy themselves that way.
It's not a coincidence.
I don't think so. Jay, do you have any Arby's?
I do. So I don't know if this is Bengals related, but it happened this morning while I was preparing for this show, and this show is Bengals related. So I'm going to roll with it. So it was, I don't know, a week or two ago, my wife and I were going somewhere. We were listening to 96 Rock, and they mentioned the call-in number. And I'm like, wait a minute. They changed their request line, their contest line number. I wasn't aware of it. I haven't won in over 2 years. I've been calling the wrong number. That's why it's been busy constantly.
Wow.
I was like, oh my God, I cannot believe that. And so this morning it's 7:15, and I'm like, oh yeah, they do beat Bridget at 7:20, and I know the right number now. So they say, okay, caller number 9. I call in. I'm caller number 1. I call back. I am caller number 9. So I get in. I get to go against Bridget. If you're not familiar with this, they ask the caller 6 trivia questions, and then they ask her 6 trivia questions. And if you tie her or beat her, you win the prize. If you beat her, you also get a T-shirt that says "I beat Bridget." And I nailed it. I got all 6 right, and I still had 20 seconds left on the clock and so I won. And I was like, it was just so validating. There was like a piece of me missing. I hadn't won a radio contest in over 2 years. It's because I was calling the wrong damn number. I finally get the number right. First try, I'm back in. The only downside is I won tickets to go see a concert on a night when I already have tickets to see another concert. So I won't be able. So maybe if we can figure out a way to transfer these tickets, maybe at the live show on Monday night, we will also have tickets to go see In This Moment at the Black Friday show for 96 Rock.
There you go. I love it. That is the most on-brand Arby's entry in history, Jay. I mean, unbelievable. You've just been, who is the poor sap at the old numbers? What I want to know, who's just like, this guy will not stop.
It was 749. Yeah, it was 749-9650. There was nobody there. That was always the number, and it was been constantly busy. They changed it to 750. They just those first 3 digits, they just bumped it by 1 for whatever reason. And I'm back in the game. I kept thinking,
because you kept stealing all their prizes from them. Somebody else
might have been it,
Jay.
But I was like, there fewer and fewer people listen to actual radio. Why is it getting harder and harder to get through? Like, not only am I not winning, I'm not even getting through and being caller 8 when they're taking 9 or anything. It was just, what is going on? And I figured it out. I'm back.
Oh, you're back. You're back, baby. I love it. I have two. The first one is from Jamar yesterday. You may have seen this or may have heard this, but it's just funny. It's just Jamar Chase being kind of Jamar Chase. A kind of a standard short week question was asked of him, and he delivered this gem at his news conference yesterday.
Short week, Jamar. The preparation obviously gets crunched down by a lot. Does it feel to you like cramming for a test back in school? Like what's a short week?
I didn't study in school.
I'm sorry. It's just it's so honest. It was so honest. And it was just fired off like, this is the truth for me. I did not study. I didn't have to worry about this stuff. I had a lot more thoughts after that about, how did you pass any of these classes? Did you not need to? Are we talking about tutors? Whatever it is, I love it. I love Jamar's refreshing honesty. You know what? Just be honest. And that's one of the funniest lines I've heard in a news conference in some time.
I don't know if he's going to go back and get an honorary degree or not, but yes, that's some of us did.
Hey,
I did.
And you know what? And you know what? Didn't need to. Going to be
Nope.
richer than that whole rest of that school combined.
Yes.
Oh, outside of Joe Burrow, I guess. All right. I had one more I wanted to slip in just because it cracked me up. And it probably would have been better on yesterday's show, but it was after a random thing that I tweeted, whether it was a story link, I think, or something like that. And you see this sometimes, like you see it a lot with like Rappaport and Schefter and stuff more often, where someone just wants to quickly get in the first reply underneath some sort of a tweet or whatever it is. And this one popped in. It was from this guy at Joey and just said, "Announce the trade already, bald." Just call me bald. That feels very slurry to me. Like, look, you can't just pick out a piece of someone's personal appearance and call them by that. You just bald. I mean, this really cut me deep. I was like, man, that is well played, internet. Announce the trade already, bald.
I mean, you do use bald in the title for the Tuesday show, so maybe he felt that still is disrespectful, but maybe he felt it was okay. What I would have done is gone to his page and seen what other kind of tweets he's had. Does he do this to everybody? Does he just take shots at everybody that he replies to, or is it just you? Then it would feel more personal if it's just you.
I didn't see a ton of that, but I instantly hit the love button. Well done, Joey. Liked it. Appreciated your effort. Thought it was fantastic. And now that I know it, people would, I guess it's okay to do that. I mean, I don't know. Like, I just feel like, I guess it's okay. You could just call somebody, "Hey, bald." Just use that as a person, and it's all good. It's all good. We're all okay with that. All right, fine. Good to know. I just enjoyed that. Well done. All right. That wraps us up. The next time you hear from us will be the walkout. We'll record it after the game on Thursday night it'll be Friday morning, to be honest. And so that'll be ready for you when you wake up. And we will roll from there. Little weekend off, and then our live show at BetMGM Nation Kitchen and Bar at the Banks, our midseason media madness, will be on Monday, 7:00. Come on down and join us. Jay's apparently going to give away concert tickets. We're going to have a Burrow jersey, full-size helmet, drink specials, all the stuff that we love to do down there. So we hope to see you down there on Monday. So have a good one, everybody.